the start of our relationship was pretty bumpy.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like we were having, horrible fights all the time, but I would say there was a fair amount of insecurity there on both sides.
Yeah.
Because I think we had, we'd been friends before we started dating. And then when we crossed that line into being together romantically, I think we had really idealistic conceptions of how seamless that transition would be and what it would be like. And, we're going to be in this amazing, perfect relationship because we have the same values around these things and we want similar things from a relationship. And I think when we found ourselves in it, all of the stuff comes up.
The wheels can come off pretty quickly. Yeah, I think we have very strong values and we can be a bit, have our ideals of what a relationship can and should be. And I'd say the first few months, because we went from a friendship into quite an intense romantic relationship.
Yeah, we moved in together very, very quickly. So it was like we were right into the pressure cooker.
Yeah, we did everything, they say you should.
Yeah, but, I would not recommend.
We tested ourselves and the wheels had come off a couple of times. But I think it was also like testing our standards, testing our values. It's like you say these things are important to you, then we're going to test you at how important they are. I mean, in saying that, yeah, we don't want to gloss over. We don't want to retrospectively seem like it was easy sailing because it wasn't. No. We learned more and more over time that we could come back to connection, and we could find it in ourselves to just come back to the love and create over time a safe and secure relationship in which I could start letting down defenses. And I'm still working through that. I'm not speaking as a healed person because it's ongoing work for me.
Yeah, and I think for you more so than me, this was certainly your most serious relationship that you'd been in.
Correct.
And so it was big, and it activated all of the things you would expect it to activate in someone with more avoidant patterns, let's put it that way. And so you definitely had the impulse to just kind of shut down and withdraw and run and all of those things that we know are kind of go-to coping strategies for people with more avoidant patterns. It's like, this is too much. What have I gotten myself into? Get me out of here. And, that evoked all of the responses that you would expect it to evoke in someone such as myself who has more anxious patterns of like, oh no, what's happened, what's changed, and how do I fix it? How do I kind of take responsibility and find a way to solve this? So I do just want to emphasize that like we've been through all of that, and it was only from both of us being committed enough to stay in it in those more challenging seasons, and as you say, like keep coming back to our love for each other, which sometimes was easier than others, but that was, I think, really what got us through those early periods and some challenging periods since. The other thing that I'll say about two things that I'll say about the work in terms of the actual how, or what does that look like for us. We have mostly solo or like DIY the work, but something that we have found helpful along the way is having structures around the work. So we have, I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but we have a regular check-in. Most of the time it's weekly. We've been a little slack recently, but a weekly check-in where we sit down and we just talk about how we're feeling, anything that is on our mind around the relationship. Having that kind of structure has been helpful. We also like to listen to books about relationships or podcasts together. And I found that to be really helpful, I think, because due to the nature of my work, it's not always well received when the insight, so to speak, is coming from me. I think that has been challenging for you at times to feel like I'm like teaching you or lecturing you about relationship dynamics because it's just too close.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes and I think this is good advice for most people. I know a lot of you listen to this podcast with your partner for that reason. Having it come from someone else can take the sting out a little and can create one step removed from any dynamics of one person kind of lecturing the other. And I think that's certainly been helpful in our relationship, whether it's like doing an online course together and working through that, or having some kind of like third party symbol or real to be the voice of some of this work, can certainly been helpful.